A devastating glacier collapse in the Swiss Alps triggered a massive landslide on Tuesday, burying the Alpine village of Blatten under thousands of tons of ice, rock, and debris. The disaster, one of the most dramatic in recent Swiss memory, has left the region in shock and sparked urgent discussions about the growing impact of climate change on the country's fragile mountain ecosystems. At approximately 11:12 a.m. local time, the Birch Glacier, perched high above the Landslide Valley, gave way after weeks of accelerated melting and structural instability. The landslide gained momentum rapidly, carving a wide path through forested slopes before slamming into the village of Blatten. The force of the collapse obliterated homes, roads, and infrastructure, leaving only fragments of buildings protruding from beneath the debris. By early estimates, over 90% of the village has been either buried or completely destroyed. It was like the mountain exploded, said Johanna Muller, a local resident who was evacuated days before the collapse. You could feel the earth shaking, and then everything disappeared under a cloud of dust and ice. Thankfully, the majority of Blatten's residents had been evacuated 9 days prior, after geologists monitoring the glacier detected alarming shifts in its structure. The early warning and preemptive evacuation likely saved dozens of lives. In addition to destroying Blatten, the landslide has dammed the Lanza River, creating a growing lake behind a natural debris wall. Authorities warn the makeshift dam could burst, triggering flash flooding in downstream communities. Swiss military engineers have been deployed to the region, working to stabilize the area and prepare for possible controlled water release. The danger is not over, said Colonel Stefan Wehrli, head of the emergency response team. The river is rising by the hour. Scientists have long warned that rising global temperatures are destabilizing alpine glaciers and thawing permafrost, making rockfalls and landslides more likely. The Alps have lost more than half their glacier volume in the past century, and the Birch Glacier had shown signs of accelerated movement for weeks. This event is a tragic example of climate change in action, said Dr. Elise Baumgartner, a glaciologist at the University of Lausanne. The collapse wasn't just inevitable, it was predicted. Swiss President Karin Keller-Sutter flew over the disaster zone on May 30th and later met with displaced families in emergency shelters established in nearby towns like Weiler and Kippel. In a somber address, she called the collapse and destruction of Blatten a national tragedy, and declared June 2nd a national day of mourning. The village of Blatten was part of our cultural and natural heritage. It stood for hundreds of years in harmony with the mountain. Now, it is buried beneath the very forces that once gave it life, she said. The federal government has pledged emergency aid and reconstruction support, though questions remain about whether Blatten can ever be rebuilt in its original location. Geologists and environmental agencies have begun assessing the long-term stability of the terrain, and early indications suggest that rebuilding on the same site may be too risky. The disaster has sent ripples across Europe and the globe, triggering fresh calls for urgent action on climate change. Environmental groups and international leaders have pointed to the collapse as a stark reminder of what lies ahead if warming trends continue. This is not just a Swiss tragedy. It is a warning to all of us, said United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres. If we do not act boldly and collectively, these disasters will become the new normal.